On this edition of City Talk, meet from the Department of Forestry, Lisa Ceoffe, Eric Schiller from City Parks, and from the Department of Mobility and Infrastructure, Eric Setzler. City Talk starts right now. Welcome to this edition of City Talk, where we try to find out what city workers do. We have a diverse, interesting group of humans, thousands of them, but few, if any, more interesting than what Lisa Ceoffe does. She is the city forester. And Lisa, welcome to the program.
Thank you.
So that makes you queen of the forest.
Yeah, I've been called other things, but that's one that I'll go with.
So that is fascinating. Tell us about your responsibilities.
So as city forester, I'm responsible for every single tree that is within the city limits that's on public property, our riverfront trails, our hillsides, our public buildings, all of our parks, and our city street trees.
So that is a huge responsibility, I would think, because how many trees are there? Do we even know?
Well, we have an inventory that encompasses our street trees. We have a little over 33,000 street trees.
Wow.
And then we have some park trees that were inventoried. Those were the planted trees, the landscape trees, and there's several thousands of those. And then along with everything else, you can just imagine if you look at the hillsides and parks, thousands and thousands, hundreds of thousands of trees.
So you have a staff, but it's not an enormous staff, correct?
We have a staff. We have some trained arborists, and we have some drivers and laborers that help us with our day-to-day tasks.
And do you have to work sometimes with, say, the Department of Public Works for tree removal or cutting them
Sure.
down?
We work hand in glove with mostly our streets division, especially responding to storms. You know, when they're the first responders for us because they usually have crews that are out, 24/7. Although we are on call, 24 hours a day. But, we work to close down streets, or they offer support with barricades or signage or flaggers, those kinds of things.
So you're always on duty on the weekends, or somebody is, and
Correct.
Particularly during the summer when the storms might bring a tree down at any moment.
Correct.
How is that? Is that a lot of tension involved? Do you wish you had some more weekends free?
Well, sure, I wish I had more weekends free, but it does get a little intimidating when you're out and about trying to enjoy a nice day and the wind kicks up a little or you see a storm rolling in. So you have to always, wonder if there's anything in store for forestry for the rest of that time, for the day.
How did you develop the expertise to get this interesting job?
Well, I'm a certified arborist, and I have a degree in ornamental horticulture from South Florida, but I actually came back here. I'm born and raised city of Pittsburgh. So I've always had an interest in trees, and it was just, I guess, timing was right. So when I came back to the city, they were looking to bring on a forester. So the rest is history.
Do all cities have foresters, or of any size?
Most cities do not have foresters. I think it's something that's more and more trending too. But pretty typically, a lot of cities just have public works directors or specialty staff that handles the tree issues.
So that's kind of cool that we have our own forester.
Oh, it's great, right?
Is there anything you haven't been able to do that you'd like to do in terms of maintaining the trees or?
Well, of course, we have a street tree inventory that drives our management plan, and it would be great to be in a position, especially when we get constituents that call up and want to have, a tree pruned or removed, to be able to say, we'll be out there tomorrow, or sooner than, we can get there. But I think just being able to respond sooner, to residents' requests, things like that, and to plant more trees. We're pretty much in the business of putting out fires. I always said to the mayor once that maybe I work for the fire department because, we basically are on, call all the time and dealing with, whatever instance comes up for the day. And we try to keep a schedule to manage our street tree inventory for, regular pruning and maintenance and those kinds of things. But we get distracted a lot, especially like this past week when there was a microburst, so everything we had lined up and, prepared for the week just sort of gets pushed to the side so we can take care of the more pending issues at hand.
You are a firefighter.
Yeah.
So that's fantastic. But so you plant trees, dozens of trees?
Well, we work closely with some of our tree partners, which is Tree Pittsburgh and Tree Vitalize program through the Western Pennsylvania Conservancy. And that's pretty much how trees are being planted on our city streets. For instance, if we remove a tree, then we always leave a tree request form. And we do have funding for some tree replacement through our operations budget and through the Shade Tree Commission. But our goal is to get the neighbors invested in the street tree canopy, so it's always best to have neighbors help with planting. So the Tree Vitalize program lends itself to a volunteer initiative where, if you call and say you want to get a tree, I always say, well, how would you like to get 10 trees? And try to get that person to do some door-to-door campaigning for us to get trees planted, and then we come up and, install the trees, the mulch, the soil, the staking, and all that kind of stuff with the help of the residents.
Awesome. So if I own property and I have a tree in my yard, but it overhangs the public sidewalk or the public street, is there mixed responsibility there? Well,
technically you are responsible for your private property, and we would hope that you would, keep the sidewalk clear and maintain it so that folks could walk under it, safely. Pedestrians could, come by, or the UPS truck or the mill truck doesn't hit it. But anything that overhangs the right-of-way, technically forestry is responsible. We could come in there, and that's our jurisdiction, and take care of those issues. And we do lots of that.
I'm sure you do. So other than the fact that it's maybe a little bit annoying to be on call 24/7, sound like you really like your job.
Oh, I love my job. If I had a magic wand, this would be what, I would want to do. And it's so rewarding. You can see the fruits of your, labor pretty much. And it's very exciting when you see trees that were planted many years ago, almost a decade now, through the Tree Vitalize program, to ride down a street that really didn't have trees, and now there's a canopy going, and it's established, and the trees are being well maintained. It's great.
You're like Janie Appleseed.
Could be, I guess.
I mean, I guess the trees would have to be apple trees, right, for that to be.
Well, yeah.
Still.
Yeah.
All right, Queen of the Forest, Janie Appleseed. Any other nicknames that people give you?
Oh, wow. I'm sure there's all kinds of nicknames people give me.
All right. What do you see going forward as your biggest challenge? Or just to maintain the...
Well, I think going forward, we're having some issues around maintaining our tree canopy. I mean, we do all we can to replenish trees as we remove them. So there's ongoing efforts through all of our partnerships for restoration projects in parks and on hillsides and along riverbanks and our street tree inventory. But I think the biggest challenge is probably trying just to maintain a no net zero loss of canopy and trying to keep up with that. And that's something that, you have to do every day, because it's, it starts adding up and it makes a big difference as time rolls on. So,
Lisa Ceoffe, Queen of the Forest, thank you so much for doing City
so
Talk.
Much. Thanks.
We'll be back, and you'll meet the director of a Healthy Active Living Center in a moment on City Talk.
I love working for the city because every single day we get to at least try to change the lives of people.
I love my job with the City of Pittsburgh because of the great benefits and the excellent advancement opportunities.
What I do is I make sure that every child in the City of Pittsburgh has access to high-quality early learning experiences.
I get to work with my community, and also I get to learn other communities, and I love interacting and meeting new people.
Welcome back to City Talk. There are 13 Healthy Active Living Centers in the city of Pittsburgh, and there's a really nice one in Hazelwood. Here's the guy who runs that one, Eric Schiller.
Hello.
Eric, welcome to City Talk.
Thank you so much for having me.
So we should define what a Healthy Active Living Center is, and a lot of people still call them what people used to call them, senior centers.
Correct. You're correct in that. It does have that old terminology. What they're more geared toward now is what they call Healthy Active Living Centers for tier programming. So they're trying to base it on components that will allow our seniors to be more integrated in their society and community and be more independent living. So they achieve that through 4 categories: fitness, which obviously is healthy activity that promotes cardiovascular response. Then there is life skills and education, which allows them to gain a skill or teach a skill in that matter, or be educated on a subject matter that they're uninformed on. Third aspect is arts and humanities, and again, that just allows them to travel to a part of the city that they may have never seen before.
Might take a field trip to a play somewhere.
Correct.
Or a ball game.
They will come down to the cultural district and participate in plays, presentations, documentaries at the August Wilson Center, you name it, and it gives them a chance to socialize. And the last one, this one should be coming, health and wellness. And we all know that we want them to live longer and have a more enjoyable second phase of life, so to speak.
Do you think that despite the fact that these have been around for a number of years, that a lot of people in the city of Pittsburgh, young and old for that matter, just don't even know they exist?
You are correct on that. One of the issues is the representation, so some people won't necessarily attend because of what the stigma is for the senior center, so they might just look past the building, so to speak.
So they think it makes them seem old or something?
Yeah, it makes them admit that they are over 60 years of age.
Okay.
And that could be difficult for some people that have worked their whole life and didn't really realize it snuck up on them. Another reason is that the sign is fairly compact, so you would have to almost be perpendicular to the building to see it. Maybe if
In
they,
your case, yeah.
Right. If they rotated it 360, maybe
There you
that'd be
go.
better. Last thing, let's not kidder. The city of Pittsburgh is fairly old, and of our 200 plus buildings, some of them don't have the allure of a new center. If you notice, the people in Beachview, people in Morningside have a nice brand new facade to them, so that can promote more interest that way.
Yeah, I was at the grand opening of the new Morningside.
Correct.
But yours has character.
Ours has history too,
Yes.
so people will know about it just because of its longevity. When you reach 100 years, there's something to be said about that, so it's been passed on from generation to generation.
What kind of expertise do you need to develop to be you and run this, and how did you develop that?
That's the $64 question. I would say there is probably two aspects. Some you can be educated on, like my degrees in a allied health field, so that helps with a lot of the what they call geriatric components of how they're aging and what's going on with them mentally and physically. So that's a nice asset. But things you cannot teach are time management skills, interactive skills, communication skills, because you have to interact with several different socioeconomic groups. And that's something that you could learn as you progress through the positions for city parks, and some is just more of an adaptation.
One thing I've noticed, it's a great place to make friends, and people build long and lasting relationships at these healthy, active living centers.
You are correct. We have some seniors that sign up. They can't wait to sign up till they're 60, and they've been with us for 20-some years. Some seniors, however, are a little bit more resistant, and maybe they come on a little bit later in life when they've had a change of life incident. As you know, when you lose your partner, sometimes you don't have as many places to go. Your family might move away. So it gives them another resource to access.
But there's probably one near almost everybody with 13 spread throughout the city.
In the city of Pittsburgh?
Yes.
Correct. They are fairly geographically placed to put you in an area where you can get to by either a mass transit component or take advantage of the city's subsidized OPT system.
And it's free to join, but if you want to eat lunch there and you can't afford it, that's doable, but they ask you for a small donation.
Correct. They do suggest a 50-cent to subsidize your program income. METS or your carrier will provide you a meal as a nice quote-unquote perk for the county.
You find your work rewarding?
Yes, very rewarding. There's a lot of facets. Sometimes you find reward in a small, simple incident that you provided someone a service, or you just helped them through a day that they weren't really doing that well, or you educated them on something they can improve on. And that's always usually a good positive.
So you're part manager, part counselor, arguably.
You are part manager, you are part counselor, you are part referral specialist, you are part jack of all trades. If you can't multitask and you're have tunnel vision or what's the word, unilateral vision, you're no good.
So it sounds like you really enjoy your job, though it's challenging.
Yes.
Yes?
Yes. There are good days, bad days. You're going to have days where people are not happy with you. That happens a lot. There's a lot of expected outcomes in these facilities. There's a lot of time-dependent components. There's a lot of regulation, as you know, in a local government building. So meeting those challenges can be difficult at times.
And you're from here originally?
Correct. I'm from Plum Borough, which is one of the larger boroughs east of the city. They do have senior center out there, but they're part of the county aligned program.
Do you see yourself, if and when you choose to retire, joining one of the senior centers one day?
It's not as far off as you would think, John,
Okay.
but let's just say I'll cross that bridge when I get there.
Awesome. Eric Schiller of the Healthy Active Living Center in Hazelwood. Thanks so much for coming.
Appreciate it.
City Talk continues in a moment. We'll meet somebody from the Department of Mobility and Infrastructure. Stay with us.
I am Anu Jan, the Executive Director of the Gender Equity Commission. Our mission is to achieve equity for women and girls in the city of Pittsburgh. Our vision is a future in which everyone in the city of Pittsburgh, regardless of gender identity or expression, is safe in all spaces, empowered to achieve their full potential, and no longer faces structural or institutional barriers to economic, social, and political equality. For more information, please send an email to genderequity@pittsburghpa.gov or go to pittsburghpa.gov/GEC. Thank you.
Welcome back to City Talk. Say hello to the Chief Engineer from the Pittsburgh City Department of Mobility and Infrastructure. Eric Setzler is here. Eric, welcome to the program.
Well, thanks for having me.
So, Chief, well, first of all, tell us what the Department of Mobility and Infrastructure, also known for its acronym DOMI, what it does.
Yeah, so DOMI is basically we're responsible for the public right-of-way. That would be, building, rebuilding things such as streets, bridges, retaining walls, city steps, a lot of those things. We're also involved in planning efforts with respect to the right-of-way, like what is the future of transportation going to look like? Currently, we have streets and sidewalks. Is that the way it's always going to be? Who knows? You're seeing self-driving cars. You're seeing those little Scooby scooters around. There's all kinds of different things happening these days. And then also permitting with regards to the right-of-way. So if you need a permit to close a lane or get a curb cut for a driveway, those things come through our office as well.
I know one of the projects you're working on, maybe not you specifically, but the department in general that interested me was trying to figure out in the Strip District how bicyclists, pedestrians, and automobiles could just get along better and interact better together and also safer together.
Yeah, that's one of our studies that we're doing right now. And it's not the only place that has need, but the Strip District, one, it's very busy, has a vibrant commercial district. It's becoming very popular for development, be that, commercial, residential, a lot of people moving in, a lot of redevelopment happening. There's also a demand to get through the Strip to get to other neighborhoods in the East End. And it's very narrow. It's a strip. There's only a couple streets. You got Liberty, Penn, Smallman, and Railroad. Those are your options. So everyone's got to use those 4 streets. So how do you divvy it up to get everyone through?
Yeah, I don't know, but I'll be fascinated to see the results of your study.
We'll see what happens.
Because I would just think that would be very, very challenging for obvious reasons.
It is, and of course, there's lots of different opinions depending on who you are. Everyone
if you own a business there.
If you have a business, if you were just trying to get through, if you're trying to get to the Strip, or so really balancing all those needs and anticipating what's coming in the future. There's a lot that goes into it.
What is your background? How did you decide you wanted to be an engineer, and how did that end up getting you into city government?
Well, I guess. I don't know, maybe I was destined from a childhood. I always enjoyed building and things like that. Which
You're big with Legos?
Oh, Legos, all kinds of building toys. But anyway, as I got into high school more, I had an opportunity to shadow the county engineer. I grew up in Northwest Ohio, so I shadowed the county engineer, saw some of the bridges and roads that they were working on, and that sealed the deal for me. I knew that was what I wanted to do. So most of my background has been in bridges and structural engineering.
Oh, so you're in the perfect city, since with all these bridges.
We've got a lot of bridges. That's
does
true.
Does that keep you busier than anything else, or it just depends on what they assign you on any given day?
Everything's been keeping me busy. The bridges need a lot of work. Flooding's been an issue lately. Landslides have been a big problem with all the slopes that we have and all the heavy rain.
Sinkholes can't help, I guess.
Sinkholes. The whole gamut of stuff. Yeah, if it's in the right of way, it's probably on our radar.
So you might be in the middle of one challenge, but then unfortunately a disaster hits and you have to switch gears right away.
Oh yeah, definitely. I mean, prioritizing and trying to keep juggle a bunch of balls at once is part of the challenge.
Is it sometimes overwhelming, or is that what makes it fascinating?
Yes. No, there's never a dull moment.
Okay. What are you working on right now? I mean, several things, I'm sure, but...
Sure. We've got a wide variety of projects that we're involved in right now, that our department is, and me personally as well, from small things as far as, needing upgrades of handicap ramps and various sidewalks. We get 311 requests and things like that we try to evaluate and take action when we can. That's on the smaller end. The paving program, obviously, streets getting paved, that's on everybody's high on their priority list. Up to some of our larger projects, probably one of the biggest ones that we have right now, we are starting engineering design for rehabbing or replacing the Charles Anderson Bridge, which carries Boulevard of the Allies into Shenley Park. So that's a very large structure.
And you don't know yet whether you need to replace it or fix it?
That's correct. So especially considering that it's historic and it goes over a park, we'll look at a wide variety of things. First, we need to determine what the purpose and need is, as far as, obviously we need to move people, on the road. But what kind of travel lanes do we need, be that for buses, for cars, for bikes, for pedestrians, and what does that need to look like? And then once we figure that out, we can look at, is the existing bridge able to be modified to handle that? Or if not, then do we need to look at a replacement bridge?
And you also deal with sidewalks, right? Which seems more mundane a little bit than other matters.
So sidewalks are, they're interesting. A lot of sidewalks, well, by code, sidewalks are the responsibility of the adjacent property owner. Of course, there are many places where the city is the adjacent property owner. But, sidewalks are kind of off to the side sometimes. But, walking is probably the most fundamental way to get around. So sidewalks are very important. And, how are we going to deal with sidewalks going forward?
I mentioned in the strip you're trying to make sure everybody, however they're getting around, is trying to get along better. I suppose that's a general description of what you do everywhere in the city. How have bike lanes changed things since they're a relatively recent phenomenon?
Sure, they're relatively recent. My observation, and anecdotally, I don't personally have data on it, but I think over the last 10 years that the number of people commuting by bike seems to have grown greatly, really. And I think it's both the impetus for more emphasis on bike lanes, and the bike lanes then help in turn to grow the people using that mode, because if they feel comfortable, riding in live traffic, right next to folks going, 25, 30, 35 and up, it varies based on the comfort level and the confidence of a cyclist.
It sounds like we're all going to have to learn to be more patient.
I think so.
Yeah.
Overall, many Pittsburghers, I think, are very patient. Something such like
I haven't met these people.
Well, it goes both ways, doesn't
right,
it?
I understand.
But the Pittsburgh left.
Yes.
That's an example of people being patient.
That's true. So what should I do should I let them do that? Or should I take advantage of that? Or should I ignore that? Because technically it's, maybe you don't have a definitive ruling on that. You don't have to.
I don't know if I can officially tell you to take advantage of it, but I certainly enjoy it when someone offers that courtesy to me.
At least you're honest. Is there anything in particular that you worry about?
What do I worry about? I do. Now that I'm working in Domi, when it starts raining, I get worried.
Okay.
Is there going to be a landslide? Is there going to be flooding? Where is it going to be? Those things are real concerns, and it's a concern for us, but certainly for the property owners that are directly affected by it.
We were talking to Lisa, the Queen of the Forest, earlier, and she has the same problem when it starts to rain or when the storm brews up. Our tree's going to start falling all over the street.
I mean, trees fall, the ground moves. It keeps us busy, that's for sure.
All right. Well, it sounds like it's intense, but that you really like your job. Correct me if I'm wrong.
Yeah, it's a good time.
And you may be doing it for many years to come.
I hope so.
All right, man. Well, Chief Engineer of Domi, Eric, thank you so much for joining us.
Well, thanks for talking to me.
I'm so happy that there are really smart people in government like you.
Well, I don't know if I go quite that far.
All right, well, you fooled me. That's CityTalk for this edition. We'll see you next time.